Keep on rocking me, baby. Oh, yeah. Steve Miller Band here at 4680Q Radio. My name is Paul K. Lemire. This is Habsolutely. I'm here with my co-host, John Filion.
Bonjour, mon ami.
Out there in Radioland.
Est-ce que tu bien aujourd'hui?
C'est oui. Très bien. Very good.
Excellent.
You know what? I'm even better after what happened this last week, especially on Friday night and on Monday.
Well, I think you were twisting by the pool on Friday night.
Oh, we were having a riot on the draft, and I'm going to tell you one thing. I don't think it could have worked out better for the Montreal Canadiens. And absolutely, because Drew Deeks jumped in the pool. He was so excited and happy.
It was truly amazing. I mean, you know, I never would have thought that the Canadiens would be going after Demidov 3-4 months ago.
No, well, you know, we talked about Demidov, and I just recalled, like, we were talking, I said, you never seen a guy play like this. I remember it distinctly, the way he plays hockey. It's different than a lot of other players, and we were all excited, but our hopes were based on somebody else not taking him first because we were going fifth. Well, and that was the big problem, and it worked out for us.
Yeah, and I thought we were trying to be a little more real about actual prospects that were like in North America, just looking for a good, solid, 6'2", 200+ pound forward who could score. And Demidov was always kind of like, there was this whole idea this guy could be like a once in a lifetime draft choice. He could be a player of the century, like a Gretzky, a Lemieux, a Rocket Richard type player, and that you had to take that risk and that chance and go after him, and we did,
and it worked out.
And we did,
and it worked out. I mean, there was no doubt if he was still there at fifth, the Habs were going to draft him. He was touted as the best player in the draft, arguably the best because they're Celebrini, but they said that if he would have played in North America, and there was a lot of doubt with the Russian, North American, and all the other stuff that goes around along with Russian players, we saw that work itself out with Mishkov, that he could have gone first. It was a toss-up. So for him to be available fifth was over the moon. Everybody was over the moon with this pick.
Remarkable. Totally remarkable.
It is remarkable. And at the end of the day, we got him. You didn't. That's all I can tell you. We got the animals, the Sharks, the Ducks, and the Hawks, right? The three animal teams, no good. Blue Jackets, who cares about them? They never took them. And the Habs stepped up to the plate, and we've got one of the best players ever. This is going to be unbelievable when we get him on the ice with all of our prospects. And we're going to talk about all of the prospects. So
excellent. So
that's fantastic. I mean, we couldn't be happier. Drew Deeks did a swanton into the pool. I can't believe he didn't break his back. I don't think he got over it. He's not landing on some big hunk of blubber like Kabbalah.
He was a little excited.
Yeah, he was. Well, yeah, and I think a lot of Habs were in, and rightly so. Me personally, I stay calm because I wait till they hit the ice and see what they do. I've seen a lot of these stories over my years watching hockey, where some of these guys who are highly touted and everybody gets excited and they start buying jerseys and that, and he's gone in a year. But I don't think this guy's one of those guys. I think he's the real deal, John.
Yeah, and I think there's just a lot of energy behind this team because we see plans that have been talked about being executed. So they're falling into place. So it's like there was a vision, there's like a 5-year plan, and it's actually being executed. So that's exciting in itself.
Yeah, and I love it. And, everybody says, well, why are you excited about the UFA, free agent frenzy, if you want to call it that? And I'm going because Hughes did absolutely nothing. And that's what we want. That's not part of his plan to go out and buy these high-priced free agents. And I'm glad. I didn't want Patrick Kane. And I didn't want some of these other guys like Stamkos and that. I know you say Stamkos, blah, blah, blah. But we are building a culture and we are building a groove. And everything we have is moving right towards that direction. Hughes is focused like a laser beam.
Yeah, and this team is being rebuilt. I mean, the draft choice that we just got is going to spend a year in Russia. Whether he hits the NHL next year or the year after is debatable at this point, depending on how they decide to onboard him from a player development situation. But, a Stamkos is going to be with your team for what? Maybe 1-2 years and eat up a lot of cap. And you're not going to be making that Stanley Cup run next year.
No. And maybe not the year after. Maybe playoffs.
Hopefully playoffs.
But but I think that if you're going to see somebody like, us get somebody, it's not going to be via free agency. It's going to be via a trade, for a Nikas or a Xhekaj or somebody else. There's a bunch of guys, McGroarty, they're talking about now. But I think you're going to see Hughes make a move like that before he'll draft and pay these free agents. Because let's face it, when free agents come to Canada, they always end up taking more of the cap space than you think because they can play in states that are tax-free.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing that you're going to see Ken Hughes do is say, okay, let's see how everybody does at training camp. Let's see where our needs are. And then if we need a forward or we need a winger specifically or whatever, then that's who we might want to go after.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the way Hughes is building this team, that makes total sense.
I mean, we know we have a wealth of prospects. We know there are certain players that are definitely going to get their opportunity to play in the NHL next year and make their identity with this team.
Yeah, and we are going to talk about the list of prospects that we have, the top 10 prospects, and I got them off the web of somebody's opinion of what the top 10 are. We might be able to argue a couple of them, but ultimately they are probably the ones that we're looking at to make an appearance and makes a difference to the Habs. So the other big news, and I couldn't be happier about this one. If you're happy about Demidov, you got to be happy that we inked Slafkovsky to an 8-year, $60.8 million deal, and now we have our core players, Caulfield, Suzuki, and Slafkovsky, sign, and they're going to be here a long time.
Yeah, I think it's great that we have Slav tied up. We don't have any concerns about that. Now it's like all the focus and energy is on developing skill and fitting in and working out with other players on the team and everybody starting to gel.
And I love Slafkovsky's attitude because he came in just under Suzuki and Caulfield's pay grade, just by a couple $100,000. And this works out perfect. We have 3 top line players who are young and gonna be here for a while. For like $20, $21, $22 million. I mean, you look at the guys down the road here, their top 3 players are up in the $40 million range. And that's the difference. That's a big difference because you got another $15 million to spend. You know what I mean?
It's a huge difference, for sure. But I think these players are getting excited about where they're at. They're realizing that they're in a family and that they're going to be together for some time. And that's what's encouraging. I've got to believe as well they're encouraged by what Montreal is doing in the draft and how the team is proceeding, so that they see that the future is good and that this is a great play to be, or a great place to be playing hockey.
Yeah, and it's beautiful when they sign a guy like Slav because that shows confidence in him, which will give other players who are on the edge of getting a good contract confidence. And it also tells the league that, hey, if you come to Montreal, we're going to pay you. Don't worry about that. We're going to pay you in case we get a trade or something like that. When your time comes up, if you perform, we're going to pay you. Don't worry about it, right? But we're looking at long term. We're not here to pussyfoot around with 2-year contracts and bridge contracts for these guys.
It speaks about the treatment of players.
Exactly, and that's the culture of Montreal.
Absolutely.
The other big news that I really love, because I've been harping on this a long time, is the power play, getting rid of Alex Burrows. I thought he should have went like 3 years ago, but He's gone, and now we have the power play disaster perhaps over.
Alex Burrows is still with the team.
Is he?
I believe he's still with the team. He actually is going to be more of a consultant with the team.
I thought he retired or something.
He's got a bit of personal issues. I think he wants to spend more time with his family. He lives a certain distance away from the actual Bell Center and the training centers in Laval. I think this is a way of... I think he's going to be focused more on player development, and I think that's a good thing. I think they're...
Well, he didn't develop the power play. That's a bad place to put him.
The power play obviously wasn't his forte. Okay? I think the Canadian... He's obviously got value, and that's why they've stuck with him. I think the actual coaching staff may get leaner. I don't know if they're going to replace him. I believe that they're going to go with the existing coaches that are left, and one of those coaches will be responsible for the power play.
Well, let me drop a name in front of you here that the rumors are that may be coming over to deal with this.
Okay.
Mr. Kovalev.
That's a possibility, I guess.
Well, he's been coaching in Russia and is definitely qualified for the power play. I mean, that's what we look to him for. And he does fit with the Habs. He never wanted to leave. He said he made a mistake by leaving. And you know what? Stay tuned for this one, buddy. He might come over and he may be the power play coach. I can't guarantee it, but this is just rumors that are floating around.
I think you might see a guy named MSL take over the responsibility of the power play.
Yeah.
Because he used to spend a lot of time on the power play.
Well, he definitely is a qualified guy to run the power play.
That's how a lot of times you'll see head coaches doing certain other things. Especially in the NFL, you'll see a head coach call the offense or call the defense because that was their forte before they became the head coach. And I think with a guy like MSL, a guy who ran a power play for many years at Tampa, Tampa Bay or no, Florida.
Who?
MSL.
Oh, he was at Tampa.
Yeah, at Tampa Bay. He should definitely be involved in Montreal's power play.
And guess who else we got sitting there? Vinny LeCavalier.
Absolutely, and that's another guy who could step down from the press box and get a little more footage on the ice.
Well, just keep the name Kovalev in your mind.
I will, but my thinking is they're going to lean inside.
Okay, it's all internal. It's all internal. And another guy that has a great talent at power plays, running power plays, is Adam Oates. His name popped up somewhere on the internet, so another interesting name. But we're going to see what happens. They're either going to keep it in-house, like you said.
I think you want to start keeping things a little tighter now. Like you're starting to really... you've selected a lot of players. Now you want to weed them out and then keep it tight. And then that's part of the development of that culture and that identity.
No, I mean, like you said, St. Louis certainly does have the qualifications to do it. Whether he's going to take on that responsibility as well is another question. But either way, something has to happen with our power play because at the end of the day, we need it taken care of.
Yeah, my biggest question as far as coaching goes is who's going to be coaching in Laval?
No, that's another good question. I have no idea, and I haven't read anything about it neither.
And to me, that is really one of the biggest things that they need to take care of in the next couple of weeks.
No, we probably will see that.
Absolutely.
We probably will see that. So, I mean, Laval's got to have somebody, let's face it.
And we want to focus on a coach in regards to player development. Somebody who is actually involved in trying to make sure that players are ready, prospects who are playing for Laval are ready to be onboarded into the NHL.
True enough.
Not just being aggressive to win the AHL, but also being part of the process of development.
And that's what it's all about. We have a lot of prospects, and they're going to need development for sure. And the coach of the Laval is really, really important in in this whole jumble.
He's a major cog.
He's a major cog. So, we drew down large in the draft. We drew a lot of people down in the draft this week and managed to grab some real talent. So we're going to take a look at them, the 10 that we got, and I have notes on some of them. You might have a little bit on some of them or have some insight. The first one, of course, we don't really have to talk much about it. Ivan Demidov, 5'11", 181, shoots left, arguably the most talented forward in the draft, 18 years old. I think everything that can be said has been said about Demidov, other than if you have anything else, John.
I think the most interesting thing for this year coming up is how much he does get to play over in Russia. And that'll be a key point. If something goes awry, will they be able to pull him out and make sure he's getting ice this next year?
Do you think he's going to make the Habs a training camp?
I think, well, he's not going to make the Habs this year. He's got one more year he has to play in Russia. But I believe the following year, 2025, right, 2026, it'll be interesting to see if he starts with the big team or spends a year in Laval.
Okay.
That, I think, will be very interesting.
We'll see how he does. These guys say they can't get out and this and that, but Mishkov is coming over, and he wasn't supposed to come over till 26. So they can work with the KHL if Montreal wants to get him over here. It'd be interesting if he did come over and shoot for Laval for a little while, get a lot of games in and that. It'd be better for him maybe than playing 30 games a year. You could play a full season.
But by the next year, he might be ready to step right into the NHL like Slafkovsky did.
That'd be beautiful.
Or Bedard.
Yeah, that would be beautiful. That would be a beautiful thing. We'll see where he ends up after training camp. I think this prospect thing that is going on in September, he's not going to be there from what I heard.
That's interesting. That's sad because I'm kind of looking forward to that 2-game affair between Toronto and Montreal.
Yeah. Now, the 21st pick, Michael Hage, 6'1", 190, shoots right, and he came with a touching story about his dad, his whole family loving Montreal, and him being a Montreal fan his whole life. Unbelievable story. He got chosen by the Habs. He can score goals, set up plays, and Habs moved up by trading their 26th pick to LA Kings for their 21st to get this guy. So Hughes was high on this guy, and I can see why. This kid looks like he's going to be the real deal.
Well, there's nothing better than having intent and being able to execute. So for Montreal to say, these are the 2 players that we want to draft in this year's draft and actually get them, that's a story of success. So you have success off the ice. Hopefully that leads to success on the ice. And the fact that we have a player that is like we there's so many great players out there from a skill standpoint. But what player is going to be better suited to play on your team? So we went and we dug deep into the player's background and looked at his experience and his history, who he was. And so you choose a player whose parents grew up in Montreal, who has always wanted to be a Montreal Canadian his entire life, who tragically lost his father a couple of years ago, and so dedicated his last season, his previous season, to his father for all the work his father had done to make him the hockey player he is today, and now be drafted into the system that for the team that he's always wanted to play for. It speaks to the culture of the team. It tells all players who have an opportunity to play in the NHL, this is the kind of team that the Montreal Canadiens are. This is who they're looking for. They want players who want to play for their hockey team.
Was he from Montreal?
His parents were from Montreal.
Okay.
Then at one point they moved into Chicago.
Oh, right.
So the fact that you're drafting individuals who want to be there, A couple days after the draft, I started to think about a guy named Eric Lindros. And, back in the day, Lindros was drafted by, I believe, the Quebec Nordiques.
That's right.
And I recall how there were so many arguments about the fact that Lindros didn't want to play in Quebec, and he refused to go to the training camp. He had to be traded. It caused an amazing ruckus. And back then I used to think, who does Eric Lindros think he is? Hey, you should be just shut up. This is the way the system works. You got drafted. This is who drafted you. Go play hockey. Who are you?
Well, Lindros, I feel bad for the guy a bit because it was his father that was the real big mouth. Lindros was bad enough, but his father was the one who drove all this. And yeah, he wouldn't play for Quebec, and he ended up in Philadelphia. Quebec goes on to Colorado, wins the Stanley Cup, and Lindros is sitting there picking his nose.
Yeah, but they also had to leave, Quebec for whatever reasons. That was probably part of it. The fact that they didn't get their draft choice to come play for their team. But now in the hindsight of that, I'm thinking, why didn't Quebec do the due diligence of saying, we've spoken to this player, and he does not want to play here. But they drafted him anyway, expecting him to play here. It'd be one thing if they had tried to negotiate their draft choice with another team who wanted Lindros. But they didn't. They just drafted Lindros and expected him to come play. There's the difference. Here we have a team, the Montreal Canadiens, going out and saying, we could draft this player, we could draft that player, whoever, but we're going to draft a player who wants to play on our team. And that's what's so important for us.
Yeah, and he does. I mean, this is perfect.
and so that shows you the involvement of how successful teams operate in today's NHL. They don't just examine the skill level of a prospect or a player, but their character. And that is just as important as skill.
Well, if you love that, which it appears you do, then you're going to love this one. Our number 70 pick, Atos Koivu. 6 foot, 170, shoots right. Great heritage in Montreal, of course, because he's the son of our beloved Saku Koivu, and he can score goals and set up plays. So, I don't know. I love this pick. I knew he was up there, and I was hoping Montreal would take him. This is beautiful.
It's a solid pick, without a doubt, and it speaks volumes again for a heritage of L'équipe de Canadiens.
And, we cross our fingers because we're in number 70 now, right?
Yes.
That's like round 2, right? Second round, 32, and 32 is 64. Third round, the beginning of the third round. And so we cross our fingers on this one, but in my heart, I really, really do hope he can make the Canadiens one day. I mean, that would be fantastic.
Well, again, you're drafting a prospect who has ties to your heritage, and you expect, because they've landed in a place that is inviting and welcoming, that they will actually give 110% to become that player that they may be.
Can you imagine if he was a sloucher and he just polished the boards with Saku watching? Saku would take him aside.
I can't imagine that.
No,
and I think it's far beyond that already. And you see it in so many instances of like race car drivers like Schumacher, et cetera, that heritage and culture and family can evolve people. I mean, LeBron James with Bronny. Look what's going on there.
Yeah, exactly. Now, so I'm glad to see him, by the way. We already said that, but I'm happy about that. Number 78th was Logan Sawyer, 6'1", 173, shoots left. He had 26 goals in 39 games, 18 years old, Called a do-it-all winger, great work ethic, has speed and great one-touch passing and shooting skills. Now, I don't know a lot about him, but that's a pretty good write-up for a guy picked 78th. And he could be a hidden gem as well.
Again, he sounds like a very solid player. Again, we will have to have players that are playing in Laval. And it's a forward. Exactly what we need. Draft, much like we drafted a lot of goaltenders last year, draft forwards.
Yep, and so when I see this, I go, we're filling our pot again. Because we had our pot full of these prospects. A lot of them are going to pan out pretty well for Montreal. And we still have to have our prospects being developed in Laval. So Logan Sawyer could be a big part of that.
Absolutely.
And when you look at it, any of these guys, when I look at them, it's not just about them playing for Montreal. It's about down the road, we are going to be working the NHL to get the best players we can, especially when we go on our cup run for 2 or 3 years. So at that point, guys like Logan Sawyer and some of these other guys who right now are 78th and 100th and everything else, they may come into play in a different way when we move down the road.
Exactly. Because at one point, we're going to have to look for a particular positional player who can help us make that cup run. And we'll need assets to acquire them with.
Exactly. So that's how I'm kind of looking at some of these people, these picks. If you can't envision a guy like Logan Sawyer ever playing for the Habs, well, that doesn't matter because he may be involved in a trade that gets somebody that we need for some specific purpose, and he may do us a lot of favors, even though he never plays for Montreal.
And you never know. Because players get hurt as well. So, you could have a Logan Sawyer playing in Laval doing very respectably well. He could be first, second line up in Laval. Somebody goes down in the big team, and we need to bring somebody up. And he's somebody that can come in for 3 or 5 games and keep everything on the rail.
Now, this guy here, he was picked 102nd. Owen Protz. And everybody's wondering, well, who's Owen Protz? Maybe probably all the guys in the Habs pages know who the heck he is because this guy's 6'1", 213 pounds, shoots left, mediocre player for Brantford Bulldogs. But they're calling him a heavy-hitting D that can shut down rushes and activate in the offensive zone. He's being called our next Xhekaj.
Well, great size, obviously. And again, you really don't know what could happen to players. Players are going to get hurt. So when you have the opportunity, you have the draft picks, use them. Try and draft the best possible players.
Well, anybody says is going to be the next Xhekaj on the Montreal Canadiens, I'm in love with. Well, I don't know how he's going to make out, but I'll tell you one thing. If he's anything like Xhekaj and he can make it, we're going to be very happy having him because you saw how the Florida Panthers grounded out to win that Stanley Cup. And those are the kind of players you need to be able to do that.
You need physical players to win a Stanley Cup.
Now at 130th was Tyler Thorpe, 6'4", 209 pounds, shoots right, can score goals and set up plays. He's 18, and this is a neat note that I saw. Ability to shoot in motion, and has a knack for deflections in front of the net.
Well, how many goals were scored during the Stanley Cup Finals on deflections? In today's modern-day hockey, goalies really have it narrowed down as to playing positionally. So the way to beat a goalie is to change where the direction of the puck when a goalie is set for a puck to go in a certain way. It's key. So to me, deflection is an art. It's such an art.
It really is, and you see guys in the NHL, especially when I watch the Boston Bruins, their big play, this is how they play the game, is a shot from the point deflected in. They get a lot of goals like that, and like you said, it's an art. They have the guys to stand in front of the net and get their sticks on these goals, and they score a lot like that, and it is something to watch when they get them. We don't see the Habs getting a lot of those, but towards the end of last year, I did notice that they were getting more deflections. And, you always say, that guy was lucky, that guy was lucky. And then you see these guys, the way they do it, and you go, no, this is a set play. This is a set play.
There are specialists, without a doubt, who can, pick a puck out of the air and make sure their stick deflects it. And as well, in saying that, you need somebody at the point who's placing that puck for you.
Yeah, and it's nice. 6'9", 209 pounds at 18 years old.
6'4",
209 pounds at 18 years old.
Nice size.
Yeah, well,
especially to be blocking out a goalie in front of the net.
By the time he's finished, he'll be like 230.
He could easily be,
and he might even be 6'5". He might even grow an inch or two. But that's great. Now the 134th is Mikas Vakvanegs.
Say that once.
Yeah, Vakvanegs. VACVAN.
I'll have my eggs over easy, please.
Well, I think this guy is not going to be over easy. 6'3", shoots left, 159. He's a goaltender.
A goaltender. Well, and that's the kind of size you need for a goaltender now, because goaltenders, still are playing that butterfly style, dropping on their knees, right?
Yeah, and he has a .908 save percentage, 3 goals against average, 18, attacks the puck, has great reflexes, and uses his blocker well.
Where was he playing?
He was playing somewhere in Europe, I think, by his name. I don't know. Stick
side is where everybody went to beat the Florida goalie. So if you've got a good blocker, that's very important.
Well, it really is, because when you look at deflections, your blocker is what directs this puck where it's going to go, right?
It can, for sure.
Yeah, so if he uses his blocker well, that's a bonus.
But I mean, you're dropping, because you're playing butterfly. So to be able to raise your stick side, that's really important.
So I don't know where he'll go, but they picked the goalie, so we'll see.
Ole, and you know what? Ole the goalie. I mean, come on.
Ole Mikas the goalie. 166. Now we're getting well into the draft here. But they picked a guy named Ben Merrill. He's a left-hand shooter, 6'4", 190 pounds, shoots left. This 6'4" center winger can absolutely rip a wrist shot with precision. He's known to use his shoulder shimmies when he hits people. Look-offs. You know what that means?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good thing.
Used to have a lot of people do look-offs.
Yeah. Dexterous, large ice handles. So he's a good puck guy. He's a good puck guy, a puck mover. And route-changing attacks.
He plays...
Apply his trade.
He's forward?
Yep. Left. He shoots left. The center winger.
Center winger. Perfect.
6'4", 190 right now at 18 years old.
That's exactly what we've been talking about, is drafting players with height and weight.
Well, when you look, it's like Koivu, 6 foot, Sawyer, 6'1", Protz, 6'1", Tyler Thorpe, 6'4", 6'3", 6'4", go right down to the Ben Merrill there. So he seems like he's a good skater. He's pretty quick with the hands. He's got good hands, and he has a precision wrist shot.
That sounds great.
I know. We'll see how he makes out.
We'll see what happens.
Well, I know, and these, you don't know what's going to happen, but, when you do read good stuff about a player, I don't care if he's 166th or not. I mean, Pasternak, who is one of the leading scorers in the NHL these days, he was picked, I don't know, 57th, 80th, I don't know, somewhere down there, and they found a diamond in the rough, and when you pick these players, that's kind of what you're looking for.
Anything can happen.
Yeah.
And you never know when a player's game is going to change, and become and go to another level that you didn't expect it to.
But it comes over to your point of development, and when you get into the Laval system or the Quebec minor hockey system or wherever you're going to go from or come from, it's the development. And we see, London Knights, Mark Hunter, and these guys developing kids, to be really, really good hockey players. And that's why London Knights are always up there. So the more we get these guys and the more we can work with them, the better our farm teams are. The more chance they have of making it, if we can develop them. But that's a big guy.
Every player's journey is different, but like we've been saying, it's so important to be able to have some large bodies on this team. So the more large bodies you draft, the more opportunity you will have of having a couple of large bodies with the potential to play on the hockey team.
Yeah, and you got to figure, you're drafting guys that you think are good. You've made your own list. These guys know. And you're just hoping it's like, throwing rice at a wall. A lot's going to fall off, but, all it takes is a few good ones to stick. And it's well worth the draft. And we got 11 more draft picks next year, by the way.
Which is fabulous.
So we're going to have lots in the mill. The next guy, number 210, was Makar Kanin. Shoots right. Now, this guy's a little bit of a smurf. 5'11", 161. And he really hasn't shown nothing yet. He's 19 years old. There wasn't a lot of info on him, but he did have 36 points in 42 games in MKH Dynamo and Dynamo in St. Petersburg in the Russian league. So we don't know how he's going to play, but
I mean that's the thing. So Mishkov, or Demidov, he's got somebody over there who is one of our scouts, who I can't remember exactly the connection he has with a couple of players, but he's out there looking for talent that other people maybe don't see, and maybe knows more about the actual player's disposition, which could easily influence why you're deciding on picking him.
Well, definitely, and like you said, there's people over in Russia that we have access to who do tell them about these players who nobody else kind of sees, but they've seen something in them. I mean, Montreal's not picking these guys just, okay, for the last 100 picks, we're just going to put a hat here, put 1 to 100 in it, and pull the number out.
But at the same point, as prospects and players, dwindle, it's kind of like, when we were watching the draft, and there was one player that we couldn't believe wasn't being picked. Who was the Yzerman. So we sat there and going, Yzerman's got to go next. He's got to go next. He's got to go next. And so it becomes that type of situation. You have a list of players, and who do you pick next? Well, it all depends on what the team in front of you, who they choose.
Yeah, exactly, because we were headed for Yzerman. He went 20th, I think. But you know what I know now? What we didn't know then?
No.
Well, I'll tell you.
Okay.
Is that we wouldn't have picked Yzerman, no matter how much Drew Deeks wanted him.
Why is that?
Because we wanted Hage. We wanted that kid. And Hughes traded up to get that kid. So
now, how do you say his name? Is it like Cage? Is it Hage?
I think it's Hage.
Okay.
I think.
We got to find out.
But, yeah, I don't know how you pronounce it. I don't even know if they'll have the pronounce it. You got to get Bob McKenzie saying it or something. But anyway, I don't think they would have picked Yzerman even if he was there on 21, because they had their eyes on this kid, and that's who they wanted. The story works. It's a great story. Kid wants to play in Montreal. I mean, and he's good. So, yeah, I think he was destined for Montreal. Now, number 224 is Rasmus Bergquist. 6'2", 181 pounds. He really hasn't shown a lot yet. 19, though. He is called a defensive defenseman. He managed 12 points in 36 games with his team, so there's not a lot about him. I couldn't find a lot about him, but being called a defensive defenseman, as much as we have Lane Hudson and Mike Matheson and some of these other guys, we do need that stay-at-home defenseman. So whether he'll ever make it to the NHL, we talked about 1967, I think we talked about, or 68, where we drafted 27 players, and only 8 of them made it to the NHL, and 3 of them stuck. So, when you get into that kind of thing, this is what you find out, that a lot of these players, we got 11, maybe out of the 11, there might be 4 or 5 that actually ever make it to the NHL, and maybe the rest won't. But we're hoping to find that diamond in the rough. So when you look at all these picks, you go, hey, who knows? Who knows? I mean, Detroit Red Wings made a living out of picking these big draft picks and turning them into superstars. And we saw one of them, Lindstrom, pick their choice this year. It's amazing. There's guys who can do it, and we're hoping that some of these turn out. So I'm quite happy with the picks we got. And at the end of the day, we'll have to wait and see.
Absolutely.
Where they turn out, right? And that's it. So we didn't do anything at the free agency picks, which I didn't expect that, because we haven't really seen a lot of that from Hughes since he's taken over. So I know a lot of people were disappointed. Why didn't we get Stamkos? Why didn't we get this guy? Why didn't we get that guy? But that's not the way that Hughes is building this team. So I really wasn't disappointed. It was interesting to watch because it set a record this year. They call it free agency, but it was $1.2 billion it cost the owners this year for free agency. A new record.
That's huge.
And that goes hand in hand with the cap going up from $84 million to $89 million. So there's a little bit more money to spend this year by teams. But at the end of the day, I wasn't disappointed. I didn't expect the Habs to make any big moves in free agency. It's just not the MO for Hughes. That's not the way he does it. We haven't seen it in the last 2-3 years since he's been the manager, the general manager. So I didn't expect it this year. We made moves. We signed players we had to, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But were you surprised by the free agency at all, John?
I mean, there was one guy that I would have liked the Canadiens to have brought back. I think is it Monahan?
It's Sean Monahan. Yeah,
I would have liked to seen him come back, but maybe the price wasn't right for Montreal at this point. I also think that Kent Hughes, we don't know what he's thinking until it happens, basically. So we know he went through the first round of the draft and was very happy and successful with his intent and the fact that he selected the 2 people that he got. Now, maybe Kent Hughes has got his eye on somebody specifically who is still with a team. And maybe what we're going to see over the course of the next few months is a possibility of a trade.
I think you'll see that.
Like a Newhook.
I really do think
same kind of an idea. I mean, he had laser vision about Newhook. He was like, I want this gentleman on my hockey team. And so I think Hughes he might look at free agency and say, that's not what I want. I still want somebody who has more years available to our team that will develop with us.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. That's Hughes' outlook. That's the way he looks at it. He's looking for that 2019, 2020 draft, a high draft pick in the top 20, say, if he can. And he's looking to move them to Montreal and be a part of the team. And we saw him with Doc. We saw him with Newhook. And we might see him with McGroarty or Nikas or one of these other guys. Or who's the guy that Drew Deeks always talks about in a couple of years? That's going to be coming up. He likes that guy. So nothing ventured, nothing gained. I don't think we lost anything by not picking up any of these free agents. And I think we're going to gain something because of the way Hughes is running all this the right way.
Exactly. And I think Hughes also knows that come 5 years' time, 6 years' time, when Slafkovsky and Demidov have had that many more years playing in the NHL, that will be the time to onboard a specific player who will complement whatever line is short of an elite player.
And we take a real run at the cup.
Exactly. And so that's the time that you want to bring that type of player into your organization, not now, having them expired at that point in time. And number 2 is I believe his other challenge will be at that time, do we have the goalkeeper we need to take us to a final run?
Yeah, and that's going to be up in the air for probably at least next season, the goaltending situation, and who knows, maybe the season after. But we do have a guy named Jacob Fowler who's been very, very good, and if he can translate into the NHL, we may have a goaltender that he's not going to come up right away because goaltenders take longer to develop. So I'm sure Hughes is going to be looking for somebody maybe that'll help us out short term. I'm not sure that he's convinced Sammy and Primo are the two guys who are going to take us to a Stanley Cup.
Well, I think he believes that Caden Primo has the opportunity now to let us know if he is.
Definitely.
Right? So,
he gave him that shot.
Montembeault had had a solid year last year. Not an exceptional year, not a great year. He had a solid year. So now we're not into 3-goalie situation as we begin the season. We're in a 2-goalie situation between Primo and Montembeault. So we don't even know what's going to happen between those two. Will they share games? Will they split the games, 60% for Monty and 40 for Primo, or maybe 70-30? What's the split going to be? Or will they go head-to-head, and will Primo shine in training camp and become the starter? Anything can happen. It's all bets are off right now, as far as I'm concerned. Totally up in the air.
Totally up in the air.
Caden Primo has probably one of the most amazing opportunities of any team in the NHL to be a starter for the team that he's playing for.
Yeah, and to prove himself.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It lies with him to say, I am, this is my performance is going to speak for itself.
And I'm really glad that Hughes in St. Louis gave him that chance last year by not throwing him on waivers and losing him.
Well, they obviously wanted to keep him.
Yes.
And they did. But now this is Primo's moment to shine. It wasn't last year because he didn't get enough ice. But this year, training camp, it's going to be an amazing training camp.
It really is, and it's wide open. So the other things that happened over the last week is we sent Koivu to the Devils. And I don't know, I kind of like that guy on defense. He's a big guy and everything, 6'5". Plus 11.
Huge, 6'5".
And they only got a 4th-round pick for him. I'm not sure about this one, John. I've seen us give away Xhekaj for Drouin and that. We gave away this guy who really, I don't know if
Koivu had how many years left on his contract? Maybe
I don't know, maybe one or something.
Maybe one. So
yeah.
So is Koivu fitting into your plan 3 to 5 years from now? Maybe not. Maybe now's a better time to get a draft pick than you could next year. And we have to onboard Logan Mailloux this year and Lane Hudson.
Yeah, they're coming on.
They're coming on this year.
But I don't know. I just would
have. So who are you taking out?
Well, I would have felt better if they lost Harris or Barron than Koivu.
They may still lose those players.
Yeah, well,
but maybe they felt that this was the most they could get right now for Koivu. Exactly.
And what's funny? We always talk about size. This is a 6'5", defenseman,
which is big, very big.
It's hard to see him go, but you got to trust Hughes, right?
Absolutely.
There you go. The other guy they picked up was Alex Barboulay, and everybody's going crazy over this pick. I don't get it. He signs with the Habs. 27-year-old comes from Tampa Bay Lightning and has managed 68 NHL games over his career. He looks like a player that'll be playing in Laval to me. He's 5'10". He's a center. I just don't. Everybody's freaking out that they got this guy. There's a lot of people talking about this guy. I looked at him, and to be honest with you, I don't get it.
How many games did he play last year?
Well, he played 68 games total in the NHL. In his career, he played mostly for the AHL. So they signed him, I guess if they signed up for Laval, he's probably a good pickup, but I don't know. People are making a big deal like this guy is going to be the next big thing or something, and I just don't get it. I don't get it. But anyway, we'll see what happens.
We'll
he
see.
might be an AHL guy, and they're happy about that. These Quebecois. But me, I don't get it. I don't even know why you picked them up. Anyway, that's me.
Interesting.
Somebody's going to comment on this video, and they'll tell us why, and we appreciate it.
And he's a forward?
Yeah, he's a center.
He's
winger.
a center.
So if you know more about Boulay, let us know. Give it to us in the comments. We're always willing to take criticism. I don't get it, but maybe some of you people do out there, and we'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to give us thumbs up and
Well, we always want to be informed as well.
yes, subscribe. Well, we'd like to be informed, but we
Absolutely.
can't know everything. I mean, look at us. We're smart. We went to school, but we don't know everything. So that's why we like our guys who are watching to comment and give us the thumbs up and subscribe and hit the notification so you know when we're going to be doing one of these things. We love you, and we hope you love us. Anyway, over to Habs tendered qualifying offers to Xhekaj and Barron, but they let Leonin, Norlinder, Sederquist, and Elias Anderson become unqualified RFAs. So I'm glad they kept Xhekaj. I mean, I'm glad they gave him a qualifying offer. Barron, Drew Jeeks, he says he's not through with Barron yet. He thinks he's got he's still good, and we just got to give him a bit more time. Okay, I'll give him that. So they gave him a qualifying offer, but Ylonen, Norlinder, Sederquist, and Elias Anderson became unqualified RFAs. There you go, gone. Right, gone. So, what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, it's a matter now of bringing people on, making room for people. Who do we keep? Who do we not keep? And there's going to be a lot of, like, you're going to go, I mean, like Yolonen. I mean, at times I thought he could have been utilized better. I mean, I would have employed him much more when we went into, like, a shootout. But for whatever reason, I mean, most likely too, what's it going to cost to keep this player at one point? All sorts of factors come into play here. And again, onboarding prospects, like I say, just bringing in Mayu and Lane Hudson, people are going to go. So we have to start making some executive decisions, and they're going to be drastic.
Yeah, well, there's going to have to, because we just have an influx of so many good prospects and we got to onboard these guys, eventually. So to onboard them, some people are going to have to go. And some of these guys are the ones that are going to go. So we'll see. You never know. They may prove us to be foolish when they hit other teams and all that. But I don't know. Hughes has been pretty darn good with what he's done so far. So once again, we absolutely have to have faith in Hughes. And he knows what he's doing. And Marty St. Louis as well. So here's our top 10 prospects according to most people. Well, a lot of people anyway. Demidov, check.
Yes.
Hudson, check on defense. Reinbacher, check on defense. Mayu.
I think Hudson and Mayu are going to have a very interesting year next year.
I really believe that. We got a taste of it at the end of last year. And I kind of liked that taste. It was a good taste.
I think so.
Joshua Wah.
Yeah, and this will be a big year for Wah as well, to stick for like 72 plus games with the team.
Yeah, and he has had his moments. This year is going to be his year, like you said, John. I think he's going to play, and it's going to be his year to really prove what he's got. And I know he's got a lot, so we got to see that. Fowler, the goaltender, he's done really well, and he's kind of, I think right now, the guy that Montreal's hoping will lead them to something in the next 4 or 5 years when he comes up. So we'll watch him. Michael Hage. Did you find out the pronunciation?
I'm actually looking for it right now.
Okay. Center. I don't think he'll be up with Montreal this year. I don't think so. But yeah, he's definitely a great prospect to have in the bank. Our buddy Owen Beck.
Owen Beck. Will Owen
Check.
Beck make the big team this year?
Well, you know what? Every time somebody's talking about our prospects, I don't care who it is, Owen Beck's name comes up as a smart player, as a responsible player, as a two-way player, as a goal scorer. He's that journeyman. I call him the modern-day Plekanec. Plekanec could really do it all, right? And he was a great player, power play specialist, penalty kill specialist. He could do it all. He did it all. He could score goals. He reminds me of that kind of a player. So we'll see, but he's highly, highly regarded by everybody who's ever talked to the kid, and that includes us. Right? We did that interview with him, and the kid was really good. The other one, Philip Massar, and I know that our buddy Drew Deeks always talks about Philip Massar. This guy is really good, and I think he's going to get his due this year out of training camp. I don't know if he'll make the big club right away, but Philip Massar is somebody to watch, and we're going to see some good things from him.
Absolutely.
And the last guy, Sean Farrell. We forget about Sean Farrell, but he's also one of those guys who was up with the Habs, and he showed well for himself. I think, he's going to develop into a decent prospect as well, a decent player at some point. So there's 10 of them. And that's only 10.
One goaltender.
2 centers, 3D, and 3 wingers.
Okay.
Good balance. Good
Yes.
balance. So, not everybody picks these same guys, but
they're all very strong, and they all have the potential to play in the NHL.
Yeah, one gentleman on on Facebook that I saw, not Facebook, but Google. I googled the top 10 prospects, and some guy came up with these lists. I can't remember the guy's name. I should have wrote it down and gave him credit for it. The guy didn't make this list up, but when I was going through it, I check, and I went down like all 10 of them, and I'm going, yeah, I agree with that.
They're all very good.
I agree with that.
They're all very good.
So-
Fantasy Sports Spot made a comment on the video that Drew posted of the draft, and he said that Hage rhymes with Cage, so it's Hage and Cage.
Okay.
So we're going to go with Hage right now. If anybody wants to make any kind of comment on that, but
Michael Hage.
Michael Hage.
We're at the right age to play for Montreal.
Who came out of his cage.
To play for the Habs.
Michael
I couldn't
Hage.
rhyme that last one.
Michael Hage Cage. There we go.
There you go. So, le trois étoiles de la semaine dernière. Johnny,
Well,
I've got 2. I didn't get a third one, but you must have 3. You always do.
Well, yeah, I do. Obviously, number 3 this week will be Ken Hughes, because, he just keeps following through on what he wants to do, Number 2 will be Demidov, because he basically has impressed people so much. And what I love about him as well is not just his skill level and what everybody's talking about, but the fact that he also has Mambo mentality. And so we spoke about that on Friday night, and the next day I was shocked to see that he was speaking about it as well in an interview he had done. And so here's a guy who is like take no prisoners attitude. And that's an identity and a quality and a character that you need when you get to the finals. It's got to be take no prisoners. Do what you have to do to win this series. And so Demidov already, at this young age of having that mentality and bringing it forward, and will most likely lead by example as well as skill. And, he's going to speak on the ice as well as speak off the ice. That's what Kobe Bryant was all about. Mambo mentality. I'm loving that. And, of course, the number 1 star of the week, Les Premières Étoiles, would be Celine Dion. Because, Celine came out there and, she took a lot of criticism for going out and being at other teams' games last year. But Celine was there because she was being a good parent, and she was taking her sons out to meet other NHL teams and enjoy the game, because Celine was concerned with her time here on Earth. And so, hats off to Celine Dion for coming out and announcing the first draft pick for L'Équipe de Canadiens.
And I've just got two, and they're not about anybody who got picked or anything. Definitely not about Celine Dion. And mine are, my first pick goes out to the Sharks, the Hawks, the Ducks, the Jackets for not taking Demidov. Thank you very much. You made my day. You're my number one star.
Oh.
And my second star is Alex Burrows for stepping down so that we can make a better power play for our team. Thank you very much. They're my 2 stars. The third one I never came up with. Nobody else did anything really good for Montreal that could help us out other than, of course, our fantastic general manager, Ken Hughes, who always seems to make the right moves. He knows what he's doing. If you don't have confidence at this point in Ken Hughes, I don't know what to tell you. We're going to win a cup. Maybe it won't be maybe in 2025, maybe not even in 2026. But we are going to win one, and when we do, it won't be one and done. We're going to be going after it for 2 or 3 years the way Ken Hughes is building this team. Mark my words. I hope I'm around to see it.
Well, where are you going to be?
I could be 6 feet under, but I'm going to be watching.
I thought we were burning you.
Yeah.
Make up your mind. I thought you were going like over the falls in a barrel or in a canoe.
In a canoe. I like a canoe.
Perfect.
Tippy canoe, and thank you for watching this show. And you know what? We'll be back.
And actually, here this will be the deal. Drew Deeks will actually be able to do a real backflip when that happens.
Oh yeah, when we win,
okay?
I can't even imagine. He'll do it off the garage. He's gonna miss the pool maybe, and we'll have to take him to the hospital. But he'll do it.
It'll be a better backflip.
Yeah, if getting Demidov makes him do that, I can't wait to see what he does if they win the Stanley Cup. I might not even be around because I don't want to be responsible for a guy doing stuff like that.
No, we'll keep you. We'll have you in a jar or a bottle or
no. I don't mean around like that. I mean I won't be there physically, even if I'm alive. Because
even if you're alive,
I can't afford the liability insurance for this guy.
Well,
he's crazy.
We'll take him to the Siamadid pool for the Love Canal.
Yeah, we'll take him to Love Canal. Let him dive into that.
Let him drift.
Yeah, and he'll be going to hospital for that too, for other reasons. Anyway, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Paul K. Lemire. This is my co-host John Fillion.
Bonjour, mon ami. Have a great day.
Yeah, if you're just waking up, bonjour. And you know what?
Good day.
It's a good day when we are watching the Habs. I'll tell you that right now. And we thank you for tuning in. Give us a thumbs up. Give us that thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button. And also hit the notification button so you know when we're going to be on air again. And, we always kid around with Drew Deeks. Of course, we love Drew Deeks. He's as big a part of this show as we are. He couldn't be here today.
Yeah, I think Drew actually just posted something.
Has he? Yeah.
I believe he posted something. While we were talking, he posted something 2 hours ago that Slafkovsky's extension proves the Habs' commitment to winning above everything.
There you go.
So there you go. So Drew, keep posting.
Yeah, and he should be back next week. We hope he's back next week. But if not, we'll do it again. We're here Wednesdays at noon, all the time. Habsolutely. Have a great day, everybody, and go Habs, go.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.